team who would like to go in a semifinal. The announcement will be delivered by the leader of the Panitera.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I would like to represent the adjudicators that the result of this, you can see there are universities in the result of session 1 is Universitas Brawijaya and Universitas Pajajaran. Okay, and then from the session 2, UIN Maulana Malik Ibrahim Malang and Universitas Negeri Surabaya. And from session 3, Universitas Andalas and Universitas Indonesia. And the last sessions, Universitas Islam Indonesia and Universitas Syah Kuala. And for this round, you're going to have impromptu motions, and the motions are: this House believes that government should ban their citizens from joining overseas group fighting against terrorism, which are not official military forces. That's motions number 1. Motion number 2, this House would prefer the political and economic assistance of China over USA. And motions number 3, this House supports the use of economic terrorism to fight against unfair trade practices of large nations such as currency manipulation and trade distorting subsidies. And for the case building, you are going to have 30 minutes to prepare. And then for the speech, you are going to have 7 minutes. Each of you are going to have 7 minutes for the speech. Any questions? Any questions? Those 8 universities are going to take the role for your presentations. Well, the time has already been set up that the first round of this semi-final is Universitas Brawijaya, Universitas Pajajaran, Universitas UIN, okay, UIN Malang, and then Universitas Unisaya. So that is going to have the first round for semi-final. Okay, good luck for everybody. Keep up your good work and congratulations.
When I call the name of the university, please come forward and sit in front. So the first line are going to be limited, are going to be given for those who are go in a semifinal. Universitas Brawijaya, bring your paper, bring your bag, please sit in front. Universitas Pajajaran, please sit on the first line. UIN Maulana Malik Ibrahim Malang, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, sit in front please, bring your bag. Universitas Indonesia, Universitas Andalas, Universitas Syah Kuala, right? Please sit in front, and please, for the official, you have to stay away, and all of the electronic devices for communications should be collected. So please, collect all the electronic devices from the semifinalists. Universitas Islam Indonesia, please sit in front. Are you finished? So we would like to proceed to the case building time. We would like to call Universitas Pajajaran with your partners. Come in front. Universitas Brawijaya. UIN Maulana Malik Ibrahim Malang. Universitas Surabaya. Universitas Negeri Surabaya. The time for case building will be 30 minutes. So please go to case building room. LO please. Corlab please.
educators, can we start? Check. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Debaters, it says, well, my final round, shift 1 of MTKMN the 15th of 2017. The debate, government, the citizen, versus which are not official military forces. Acting as the opening government, we have Universitas Pajajaran with Mr. Aldo as the Prime Minister and Ms. Tanti as the Deputy Prime Minister. Check. On the opening opposition, we have Universitas Brawijaya with Mr. Bilal as the leader of opposition and Mr. Afdal as the deputy leader of opposition. Now, closing the closing debate, we have Universitas Negeri Surabaya as the closing government with Ms. Alfi as the government member and Mr. Landry as the government whip. Closing opposition, we have UIN Malang with Mr. Doni as the opposition member and Ms. Fajrin as the opposition whip. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Aldo as the Prime Minister. Time is yours.
Everyone, assalamualaikum. Good day, everyone. Tayoga to be representing as opening government here, and here standing by here today, I will tell you about the case that is actually happening today. Now, in the background, we believe that in the status quo today, in the world that we are living today, even though we believe in the idea of peaceful is the most ideal way to live a life. Meanwhile, there's actually a lot of places in which places are not peaceful at all. For example, there is actually exists terrorism. Now, terrorism is still viral in the Middle East, for example, because the existence of ISIS and etc. etc. Now, the trouble is becoming real, ladies and gentlemen, to the point when even local victims need the support from backup from such as military forces from overseas, for example, because even though there are actually terrorists there, the government there can actually solve the problem by their own self. Why? Because the terrorism itself is actually growing and even becoming even more fierce. That's why victims are even falling even more, for example. Now, the urgency here. Now, I'm going to mention the harms that happens in terrorism, which actually explains why it is actually bad in the first place. There are actually a lot of victims in which government can no longer actually save the rights to protect these people, and which actually attract the attentions of other countries. Now, we believe that even in the cases of this Middle East, a lot of people are actually dying, children are actually being abandoned, and even a lot of cases in which here are too fierce to be told, for example. Now, another hadith, we believe that this cannot stand still, and that's why other countries are actually willing to give their support, for example. Now, in Quran Surah Al-Maidah, verse 2, Ta'awanu alal birri wat taqwa. Now, each of you should always race in doing good deeds. Now, for example, it is actually a good thing for countries to actually involve in preserving peace in a country, for example. Now, that's why that's just how bad that I'm going to explain. Now, there's actually a lot of ways for us to actually give support towards these victims. For example, we can actually send for another country, the nation and also charity, giving food supplies, for example, giving actually educators for those children who are actually abandoned, volunteers to actually help those people, journalists to actually explain how media should actually explain how they are supposed to be aware of these kinds of problems. Also, and the most importantly is military forces. Now military forces is the most essential thing that can actually eliminate the case of fighting terrorist group, for example, because they are the one who can actually have the power to actually fight against the power brought by fighting terrorists. Now, for example, now these parties actually have a lot of they actually have noble initiative. It is obvious now. Now it is helping others in need. Now we believe sending them without thorough consideration, I believe if we send them without thorough consideration, everything will only get worse. How? Because there's actually the story that I'm going to tell you. For some cases, a lot of Western countries actually tried to stop fighting the conflict by not adding more conflict, for example, giving a negotiations, for example. That's why they actually send representative to actually have negotiations, for example. Now, what happens in this case, terrorism even kidnap this representative and actually make them as a hostage. Now, in this case, the countries that are actually sending are actually being in kinds of trouble because they can no longer actually fight against terrorists under the threat that these hostages are going to be killed by these terrorists, for example. Now that's why thorough consideration should be brought by the government. Now this is bad, for example. In the worst case scenario, so what is terrorism in the first place? It is a rational act of threat, harm, sabotage, and taking hostage strategically done by group or individuals with certain ideology, for example. Now in ISIS case, it is actually just that harmful. So terrorism itself is a rash threat. Now this is how we should end it, for example. But eliminating it is definitely our sole goal. But that's not the only goal that we have today. Because terrorism is a complicated matter without simple solution. So here, ladies and gentlemen, we believe in this debate we are going to talk about whether or not we should actually give support only for military forces to be sent overseas to help these victims, and which here we are going to ban others, such as journalists, for example, and also volunteers, for example, and etc. etc. So what are we going to do in this debate? Yeah, that's why, and why we should be ban it, for example. Now, it's to reduce the risk of any worse outcome possible. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we believe there are actually a lot of victims that we as government should make, we shouldn't take rash action, that we can actually, that in the end can only cause more victims to fall, for example. That is the wrong decisions. So that's why government should be the one who took this kind of action of banning, even though people are actually willing to give help. Now, government actually have one duty overall, is to protect the citizens at all costs, for example. Now, that's why it's actually justified for government to give a banning towards sending their own citizens overseas just to fight terrorists, for example. Why military forces are the one who can only be sent, meanwhile the others don't? Because military forces and also the armies are the one who actually vote their life, for example. They are actually willing to die for their own country. Meanwhile, these people who are actually being volunteer, they are not the one who can actually do that. Their only purpose is to only share the media towards like how to make awareness towards the world, for example, or only to give the nations, for example. And in which, if only innocent citizens are being harmful in the process, government's trustworthy is being questioned by people, for example. Now, how is it justified to only send, that's why it's actually justified for only on military forces. Now, how is it making everything better in fighting terrorists? Now, I'm going to tell you, unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily give more impact towards effectively. But what I'm going to emphasize here is that we are going to avoid the worst case scenario at all costs. Now, that's why, ladies and gentlemen, worst case scenario can actually apply in three kinds of things. For example, innocent citizens are getting murdered, for example. Now, secondly, and also a hostage situation. And thirdly, even worse of all, we are going to have bad image. For example, if we actually send our own citizens to get there and then the citizens are actually being harmed, other countries will actually question our own life-taking decisions, for example, because by taking decisions is actually bad. Now, we believe kultum ro'in kullukum ro'in wa kullukum wasulun an ro'yatihi. Every one of you is a leader, and the obligations of every leader is going to be asked in the end. Now that's why we believe government should not be the one who's taking a rational decision, for example. They have to be the one who actually take the best decisions, which in the end can actually protect the country and also protect the people there as the victims. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the Prime Minister, Mr. Abdul spent 7 minutes and 33 seconds, 7 minutes and 33 seconds. Now to open the case of opposition, we invite Mr. Bilal as the leader of opposition. Time is yours.
Cek. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Stance of Tim Brawijaya is we would not ban our citizens to join overseas group that fight against terrorism. Understanding the fact that the urgency that terrorism become global threat for all people, terrorism right now have been expanding their power and the network to spread threat to global citizens. We think allowing citizens to join overseas group fighting against terrorism is a form of support from government to dismantle global issue from terrorist group. It is in line with the Islam value that we never tolerate any kind of action, any kind of terrorism or any kind of terror that created by these terrorist groups. In the case of terrorism in overseas, like in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, that are extremely severe, some of terrorist groups like ISIS already occupied many cities in Syria and they hostage many citizens. That result into society become suffering and living under threat of terrorist groups. This shows to you that terrorist group now become more severe and these terrorist groups also need to be countered, and we think by allowing citizens to support group who want to fight against terrorism is a form, it is effective way to effective way to fight this terrorism on the ground. Several rebuttals before my arguments. Number one, they said how military power is already enough to fight terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to note that official military and group who want to fight against terrorism is complementary. We think the case of terrorism is a complicated matter. They are a big enemy. They have the big power. Sometimes we cannot rely only on the official military, because how they also have lack of power. They also have lack of weapon, for example. So we need group who want to help us to fight against terrorism. And this group is actually our lacking manpower. So we need to allow our citizens to help this group to fight against terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. Because understanding the fact that terrorism is a big power, is a big group, we need another counter proposals to fight this kind of this group. And secondly, they said how it compromised the safety of citizens who want to join group. To be noted that we are not forcing all citizens to join this group. We think how the decision to join this group is based on the willingness and based on the voluntary action of the citizens. It shows to you that number one, they are already rational and well informed to join this group who want to fight against terrorism. They already know the consequences if they want to join this group. They know their capacity if they want to join these groups. It shows to you they already consented if the worst case scenario they will die on the ground to fight against terrorism. So we think when these people are already rational, we need to respect these decisions. Respect the decision want to die shahid, for example. Respect the decision to do jihad to fight against terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. So we cannot dismiss the individual choices to fight against terrorism through supporting this group. So my argument is, I'm going to prove to you why this actually is the effective way to fight against terrorism. My first argument, we cannot ban citizens to join overseas group because this is the effective way to lessen the power of terrorist group like ISIS. Group of terrorisms become more powerful in current context. Terrorism group like ISIS is getting bigger and powerful nowadays because they actively recruit and gain followers from citizens around the world. It is a very dangerous development because the member of ISIS group become bigger and they have more power to spread the threat. In contrast, many groups in Syria, like Al-Nusra, that come from the civil society who want to fight against terrorism, doesn't have enough capacity and power to counter ISIS group. Al-Nusra group needs support in terms of manpower to become troops to counter ISIS on the ground. So, we need to volunteer as many as possible around the world to support manpower of this group, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very necessary because the effectivity of this group to fight against terrorism depends on how many manpower they have, because ISIS group also have many followers to spread the terror, ladies and gentlemen. So it is the effective way for this group to gain many volunteers to fight against terrorism. And number two, we think some of citizens are willing to do jihad against terrorist group, right? Like if they are men, for example, and they have capacity to fight on the ground, and they are already consented to sacrifice their life, we think it's okay for them to join this group, because how sometimes they cannot join official military because sometimes they are not fulfilling requirement to join the official military. For example, the number of height, or they cannot pass the selection of official military. That's why the only way to fight against terrorism for them is actually by joining the unofficial group that established by civil society. But secondly, why we need to support group even if they are not official military forces? Number one, this group like Al-Nusra in Syria established by civil society. They are making this group because Bashar al-Assad, as president of Syria, doesn't make a fast response to counter ISIS. So, in order to fight or to lessen the power of ISIS, they make their own group to fight against terrorism. Because these terrorisms also giving threat to society, to civil society in Syria. That's why we think how when this group is actually need help, we need to allow our citizens to have this group in order to fight against terrorism, right? And we think these groups are supporting system of official military force, because official military force cannot work alone. Official military force cannot work alone to fight against terrorism. They also need help from citizens to fight against these terrorism. And my last argument, why it is okay for society to sacrifice their life to fight against terrorism and to join this group. Ladies and gentlemen, Islam already taught us to sacrifice ourselves for the bigger benefit, for the goodness. Take an example of Prophet Ismail alaihi salam, that he was willing to sacrifice his life when Allah Subhanahu wa Taala ordered Prophet Ibrahim alaihi salam to kill his sons. We think how Ismail alaihi salam already consented to sacrifice his life in order to follow the command from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. It is same with the case of citizens who want to join this group to fight against terrorism for the greater benefit, for the bigger benefit, that you want to diminish the terror and to fight this terrorist group. We think the bigger benefit that we can obtain is actually we can maintain security of our citizens, ladies and gentlemen. And at last, in the end, we can also strengthen the Muslim brotherhood who really need help, because Islam teach us that we need to help each other. We think it is in line with the Islam value to help each other and to fight against terrorism. We are very proud to oppose. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Mr. Bilal as the deputy leader of opposition. As the leader of opposition, Mr. Bilal spent 7 minutes and 33 seconds. 7 minutes and 33 seconds. Now, to extend the case of the government, I would like to invite Ms. Tanti as the deputy prime minister. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, our motion today is this House believes that government should ban their citizens from joining overseas groups fighting against terrorism which are not officially military forces. First of all, I would like to mention again what kind of citizen that we will send there. Well, this kind of citizen that will go there joining these groups, this group fighting against the terrorism is, for example, like journalists, medics, volunteer, and also the educator. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to give the several rebuttal to the opening opposition. There are actually 3 rebuttal coming from the opposition team from me. The first thing is they say that the terrorists need to be countered. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are going to send there is a person which is not actually have the capability to do the forces, to do the war against the terrorism itself, ladies and gentlemen. But here, if we still going to send our citizen there, what will happen, ladies and gentlemen? Are you going to send our citizen to suicide? That is what the opposition team want to do, ladies and gentlemen. It is so wrong. And then the second point is that they say those people, those citizens are know the consequences if they have been sent there. If they go there to the terrorism, to the place which is to against the terrorism, they know the consequences that they will die, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the rights for them, for the people to choose whether they will die or not there. But unfortunately here, we have our government. Our government also have the obligation to protect their citizens, ladies and gentlemen. Are we going to let our citizens die there? Of course not. That is why we still want to ban our citizens from joining overseas group. And then the third thing is about the case that they say Allah asked our prophet to sacrifice their life. Ladies and gentlemen, has Allah ever asked us to also sacrifice our life? Never. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so our stand here is that we will solve this terrorism thing, but what kind of the way we will do? Our way is something like this. So we will send the military first, our military forces first, to fix the problem of terrorism, and then after the problem solved there, then we will send our citizens to fix the other problem. For example, like they giving some food or education, something like that, ladies and gentlemen. And then, yes, please.
We are not forcing people to join group who want to fight against terrorism. If there is individual who are willing to join this group, we will give permission. If they will die, we think it's consequences that they already consented.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will explain you later about one hadith and also ayah from Quran that will certainly oppose his EPI. Ladies and gentlemen, back to few years ago about the case in Yemen. There is some conflict between the Shia and Sunni thing there. And what happened, ladies and gentlemen? Our university students, especially from Indonesia, they are returned back to Indonesia. They sent back to our home. Why? Because they are not safe there. That is our university student. They are sent back to our home in Indonesia, and we will send our citizen to go there, ladies and gentlemen? Of course not. Why? Because there will be so many disadvantages and harmful things for them, ladies and gentlemen. Even in one hadith say that la doror wala diror, which is mean that don't make the situation become danger. It is already been danger there, and then we send someone who don't have any capability, any ability to do anything there to force this terrorism directly there. It will make the situation danger, ladies and gentlemen. Are we going to sacrifice our citizen? Of course not. And then, if we are going to talk about what is the benefit and what is the disadvantages from sending them there, there will be so many disadvantages and harmful things from us, for us actually. And there is a hadith also say, dar'ul mafasid muqaddamun ala jalbil masolih. So, are you going, which is mean that prevent the harm thing is more important than getting benefit. So we are going to prevent the harm thing here, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going to prevent the harm thing rather than to get the benefit, because the harm thing itself is so bad for us. And then actually here Allah also say something about and also it will it will answer the PI from the opening of the session. So about sacrifice our life there, which is some of persons say it is a jihad. But unfortunately in Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 195 say, A'udzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim, wala tulku bi aidikum ila tahlukah. What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? So don't let yourself into destroy. So if we still send our citizen, it means that we are going to send our citizen to the destroy. And then also from Quran Surah An-Nisa, verse 29, it says that wala taqtulu anfusakum. Don't kill yourself. So after we send them there, there is a forbidden there. Wala tulqu bi aydikum ila tahlukat. And then if we still let them there and they die, it means that we are already killed them. Wala taqtulu bi anfusakum. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are going here, what we as the government team here is actually want to save our citizens, because we have the responsibility for that, ladies and gentlemen. That is why we hope that for all of our citizens, ati Allah wa ati Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Please obey your God, your Rasul, and also obey your government. So, best of all, that all of the argument that I already told you, we believe that by banning our citizens from joining overseas group is the only way to protect our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Ms. Tanti as the Deputy Prime Minister. Ms. Tanti spent 7 minutes and 3 seconds. 7 minutes and 3 seconds. Now to extend the case of opposition, please welcome Mr. Afdal as the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In my speech, I'm going to talk about two things. Number one, I'm going to talk about why fighting overseas is a form of rational choice of these individuals. And secondly, I'm going to talk about why, in comparative with their side, finally, if we want to ban and punish the individuals who plan to fight against the terrorism, then it would violate the function of the state. Going to the first argumentation, that will also incorporate responses. So, talking about why this is a rational choice. They say that these people going abroad to fight terrorism finally have no capacity. Firstly, we need to question the capacity, because we think that the capacity is always proportional, right? For example, in supporting fighting against terrorism, we agree that some of them might want to fight as soldiers on the ground, but we say even these individuals can also contribute in a way that are proportional to their capacity, exactly just like what they say when they talk about civilians who happen to be doctors and want to fight, or even they are journalists that want to fight, then can also help to expose the atrocities that happen in the conflicts. We think that they are going to basically contribute in a way that they are capable, ladies and gentlemen. But even if we talk about people that want to fight as soldiers, exactly they also are aware with the consequences, therefore comes the preparation. Because if you talk about people who travel abroad going overseas to fight terrorism, what they are expecting from the groups that they join is that the groups will provide them jihadist training, and this is exactly what happens in Al-Nusra Front or even in Kurdistan fighters in Middle East, when these groups actually provide jihadist training to also basically educate them how to fight on the ground. We think that finally, even if, for example, they sacrifice themselves, the sacrifice will not die in vain. Because of the An-Nisa, like what they quote, that what they recite is that only harmful in the context of their suicide without good intention, that is to say that they are tired of life and refuse to basically make a meaning of the life that has been given by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We think that this is not relevant in this case. No, thank you. So, secondly, they also, if they talk about, well, the country will still care, the government will still care with the conflict in the Middle East. It's sometimes not true, because assuming that's the case, then maybe they are not going to go anyway. But sometimes there is a context where even the country does not care, right? For example, Indonesia is adopting politik bebas aktif, that is to say that the government is not even actively sending military troops there and fighting against terrorism. They feel that there should be someone that represents the Muslim community of this country to protect my brothers in the Middle East. And this is where the motivation is actually justifiable, ladies and gentlemen. So talking about this jihadist training, we think that is to say, it is only the expectation of these people. They don't want to, for example, associate themselves with the groups. They just want to find the opportunity and also find the channel for them to fight. Ladies and gentlemen, given the fact that they see that Bashar al-Assad in Syria was proven ineffective to fight against terrorism, even the president of the Syria kills the civilians themselves. We think that these Muslims might want to have motivation to help the fellow Muslims, because of the victims are also the brothers, the Muslims that become the brothers of these individuals, right? We've witnessed how much blood have shed, and we think that we need to act, because in Al-Hujurat verse 10, it says that mu'minin are taught bond of brotherhood, ladies and gentlemen. In Hadith,
Sir?
we are basically taught that not among the faithful unless the Muslims love their Muslim brothers the way they love themselves. And we think that this is
Excuse
the
me, sir.
motivation that we
Sir?
justify as Muslims, ladies and gentlemen. Before that closing,
The context of that, if you are fighting against it through military, you can go through UN. But the context is overseas, then you can strengthen your ideology, for instance, because that's gonna be important.
finally, it will happen anyway under your side. I'm going to explain to you why. Finally, preventing people to go abroad and also like do jihad on their own sense of justice is inevitable. Therefore, in comparative, what will happen under your side is that you're going to violate the function as a state. This is exactly my second argument, ladies and gentlemen, right? Because basically it is difficult to prevent them from traveling anyway, because these people, because of they have been so much sad with the fact that they see in news that Muslims are killed every day, then sometimes they would like to contribute, right? They would travel and even maybe fool the government to a certain extent. They say that they would like to travel to Malaysia, but they would like to travel to Syria from Malaysia, and we think that sometimes it is really difficult to prevent them. But what happens under their side is that, because we only know that they have come back from Syria after they basically return, finally, all we need to do, all we can do is only to punish these individuals, right? We think that to punish these individuals is really, really harmful. No, thank you. Because in context right now, such as in Europe, when there is a civilian that finally come back from Syria after joining jihadist training, the punishment might be expelling themselves from the countries. That is to say that the citizenship is stripped off, because they will see that, oh, these people might have been radicalized after going back to Syria. We think that this is harmful, because finally, if this person who actually has good motivation is going to get punished for something that they feel that they do, meaning that it is violating the function of state. What is the function of state? The function of state is to give them security, to make them feel that they are actually belonging to a certain state that will provide them with welfare. The problem with stripping of the citizenship of these people that come back from Syria is that it is definitely not in line with how Rasulullah defines the function of state. In a way that Rasul establishes state of Madinah back then to give security to these individuals, ladies and gentlemen, to not discriminate these individuals for the religious choices that they have made. And we think that under their side, what you are creating is that you discriminate these individuals from a religious choice that they have made, that I think I am doing a good thing because I am protecting my brothers out there. But you are discriminating them and telling them that what you are doing is wrong and what you are doing is endangering the people, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that this is basically not justified. That's why we think that although we don't force people to go to Syria, although we don't actively encourage people, we need to actually exempt them from punishment and also banning if they happen to finally determine to do so. So what we have proven to you as opening opposition is that finally these choice is actually rational, and basically if you're talking about other means such as the help of other military forces, it is going to also be hand in hand. But given the fact that they have also considered that terrorism might not end in the near soon, meaning that we cannot also say that the contribution of these people, no matter how small it is going to be insignificant, because of that is really, really judgmental to these people. We have also proven to you that finally if you punish these individuals, then you are going to violate the state function, just like what Rasulullah SAW has prescribed to us. That's why for all of those reasons, we're very proud to oppose this motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for Mr. Afdal as the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Mr. Afdal spent 7 minutes and 18 seconds. 7 minutes and 18 seconds. Now to open the case of the closing debate, we are going to invite Ms. Alfie as the government member. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm standing as the closing government. We believe that terrorism is bad, and we also believe that terrorism, it should be combated at the very beginning. The first thing that I should say, the opening government bans, they only say that they don't want to sacrifice their citizen or create more victim. But in our proposal, we would like to contributing in other aspect, because we see that contributing in other aspect is good. Such as we are going to strengthen our ideology, for example, Pancasila, religion, and other sectors that will strengthen their ideology of the nation itself, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, before I'm going to my argument, I will give some responses toward the opposition, opening opposition. The first, they say if they will enhance the military forces of government by joining overseas group. But one clarify, if their example is an officially military from Syria, it's not exclusive, because the one who joined the military forces is the local people itself, ladies and gentlemen. In Islam, you may combating if it direct harm to you, ladies and gentlemen. Thus, if you are the local people and you get the direct harm from the terrorists, you may combat it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go into my argument. The problem here, terrorists is not only do direct combat like wars such as in Iraq or Syria, but they also spread it private spheres, for example, by joining the organization that will strongly dominate the idea to the society itself. For example, the idea that jihad is by killing people all to battle in the battlefield itself, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, we see that the context of the debate is the citizen. We think that the citizen is more prone to be required as the terrorist itself, ladies and gentlemen. Thus, the preventive action to strengthen their ideology is a very important at the very beginning. The first thing, why by default we ban their citizen? Because we see in Islam, al-jihadu madin ila yaumil qiyamah. Jihad is an obligation to all Muslim, right? Thus, what we want here is jihad which we want is we want to diverse the role of military and the role of the citizen. So that's we diverse the role of the military as their jihad, and we also diverse the jihad of the citizen itself, ladies and gentlemen. For example, in Islam gives you a massive way to do jihad. For example, you are learning, searching for knowledge. We see that Tolabul Ilmi is also one example of doing jihad. And also, being a good wife, such as in a book Majma' al-Zawaid, Hadis Riwayat al-Bazar, being a good wife is the jihad of a wife. And also, doing amar ma'ruf nahi munkar is also the jihad of our Muslim itself, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, why it is proportionally given to the role of combating terrorism. We see that terrorism doing action in two ways, by war and by the ideology of the nation itself. The first thing, the war or bombing, killing people, and so on and so forth, we see that in the status quo, this kind of war has been handled by the government itself, by their military system itself. Moreover, we see in the military system, they will have a well-trained, they will have a weapon, and it is better to the government to use this kind of military system in order to go to war itself. But it can be done by the citizen, because we know that the capability of citizen, they aren't well trained by the government, because they are unready to go to war, battlefield, and so forth, ladies and gentlemen. This is the obligation to the government to protect all of the citizens. Like in the hadith, Tasarruful Imam al-Ara'iyah manutun bil maslahah. The government responsible to the protection of this society itself. And the government may not sacrifice the citizen. For example, in the war, the one that should be protected first is the civilian, right? Thus, civilian is the right of the citizen to be responsible to protect it. Third layer. Why indirect ways of combating terrorism is okay? We see that terrorism is not only attack by physically, but also their ideology, such as joining some organization and doctrine them radicality, doctrine them a wrong definition of jihad. But what we are going here is to empower them to the strengthening our ideology.
Ma'am.
No, thank you. Secondly, we would like to do the practicality. In our proposal, we would like to empower the practicality which combating terrorism action is best in the status quo. We see that in the status quo are fails to create a better position to empower to combating terrorism, because government standardize what combating terrorism is correct. It's not only physically but also strengthening ideology. For example, in problem in Indonesia, the invention of radicalism is like through the internet itself, ladies and gentlemen. For example, they are combating through the organization in a university, and the terrorists, they will attack the young generation which is still blur about the ideology and so on and so forth. This is one of the agenda of the terrorism, that they will attack this kind of young generation, because we see that young generation is the power of the nation itself, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, it will be bad if we do not ban, because they will easily follow without any filters. And why? In our proposal, it is good and it is effective to create a better understanding. What we are going to do is to give a religious education to all of the schools, for example, in the university, giving a civic education, PPKN, Pancasila, and so on and so forth, by giving socialization to make them selective to choose what organization that will be chosen by the society itself. If the opposition team afraid of combating terrorism by war, we still have it. Thus, we still rely on the military officer, and we also strengthening our ideology toward the citizen itself, ladies and gentlemen. Thus, what we are going here to strengthening the ideology of the society itself. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Ms. Alfi. As the member of government, Ms. Alfi spent 6 minutes and 58 seconds. 6 minutes and 58 seconds. Now to open the case of closing opposition, please welcome Mr. Doni. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the chance, ladies and gentlemen. Under the motion, this House believes the government should ban their citizens from joining overseas group fighting against terrorism, which are not official military forces. We as a negative team, we believe that we should not ban their citizens for joining these groups. Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, we would like to give rebuttal for my opponent team. First thing about terrorism, they believe that they clarify that terrorism is actually harmful. But actually, not only harmful, but violating and so on and so on, and so on and so forth. Therefore, it must be stopped as well as possible in any way, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, we think by not banning them join, meaning government takes a part to do good things, preventing terrorism, and creating peace, ladies and gentlemen. That's the second thing. Third thing is about their worry about rising number of victims. But now let's see in the status quo right now, if we let the terrorism exist and ban the citizens to fight against the terrorism, meaning we will create more victims, we will raise more victims, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we should not ban our citizens to fight against this terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. And number 3, about kulukum ro'in wa kulu ro'in mas'ulun ar-ro'iyatihi, I clarify that meaning each of you are leader, and each leader should be responsible for every kind of good deeds, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, everyone should be responsible to uphold any kind of good things. We should not let terrorism exist, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we believe their argument about kulukum ro'in is already totally tackled down by my team. Fourthly, about the protection from government, if the government limit or ban the existence of the citizens in fight against the terrorism, meaning we limit the citizens to do a good thing. Remember, when we try to stop terrorism, meaning we do and try to make a betterment to stop this terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. Talking about la diroro wala diroro, remember once again, la diroro wala diroro, meaning we should not do harm things and harming. We believe that it is already tackled down by the hadith jihadun fi sabilillah. And secondly, we believe also amar ma'ruf nahi munkar. Actually, when they believe so, we should once again amar ma'ruf nahi munkar, do good things and prevent harm things, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, they are wrong at the very, very first time. And also, about my opponent team, talking about that terrorism brings not only physical abuse, but also ideology, physical, and so on and so forth. But let's see, if it is so, therefore, it must be stopped to fight against this terrorism. Therefore, there will be no spread of ideology, there will be no more violating physically and so on and so forth about terrorism.
Sir.
Yes.
Goodwill itself is not enough. Goodwill itself is not enough. I get that. You are trying to send innocent, powerless, invulnerable society towards a field war in a country which in the end can result only a suicide for the citizens.
Thank you. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if the government if government powerless or have no power to stop terrorism, therefore the government at least should give a permission or not ban the citizen to stop this problem, ladies and gentlemen. That should be underlined. Now let's come to my case. First thing, like I said before, amar ma'ruf nahi munkar, meaning do good deeds and prevent bad deeds. Allah will raise people to do what they are right and prevent bad things. And we believe that if citizens do fight against the terrorism, meaning they try to do good things to make a betterment toward those countries, ladies and gentlemen, therefore we should let them go fight against the terrorism. Secondly, we should remember innamal a'malu binniyat. Remember, every citizen has the right to do anything that they do. If they have intention to bring a betterment, to reach good things, we should access, we should facilitate them as a government. We should let them go. We should not limit and ban them at all, ladies and gentlemen, because remember, actually their intention to bring peace world, ladies and gentlemen. And third thing about muamalah, al-aslu fil asyai al-ibahah. Everything is basically mubah if it is not banned by government. Therefore, when government lets citizens go there to fight against terrorism, meaning government will contribute to stop terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. And it is very important at the very, very first time. Now, about the fourth, in Quran, kul ya'mala ala syakilatihi farabbukum a'lamu biman huwa ahda asabila. Each people do anything according to the condition and situation, but your Lord is the best guided in the way. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it is so, citizens do something like against fighting and joining overseas groups fighting against terrorism, meaning they have an intention that because they see the condition is worse, therefore they will make a better condition toward this terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. And number 5, about Surat At-Taubah verse 24. Ahabba ilaikum minallah wa rasulihi wa jihadun fi sabilillah, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, and the dwelling in which you delight are dearer to Allah and His Messenger. Remember, this means that every single person has their rights to do anything as long as it is good for their jihad. Meaning, they try to fight against terrorism, to uphold their religion, to save any kind of suffering people, and so on and so forth. Therefore, we believe it must be continued.
Before 6, sir.
Yes.
We will. Are you saying that even if we send them, the citizens towards the society, then what if they have the risk coming when they are being hostage? How are and they are asking for money for ransom? How are government are going to be burdened by this money just because of letting the rights upon citizens?
Thank you for that question, ladies and gentlemen. We should remember that every citizen go with high tension, and they intentionally and consciously go there. They think the consequences, and they know what will happen when they do that. Therefore, if there is something happen which is harmful toward the citizens, it shows us that these citizens are, have a good quality to do that, because actually they are reliable to do any action to stop terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, we should remember why a government should let the citizens go there to stop terrorism, just because government could not facilitate, could not stop, could not diminish this kind of terrorism, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, the only thing by letting them go there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the solution for our team is that rather than banning citizens, it's better for government to empower and enable military forces to fight against terrorism. But if the government could not do this, just let the government citizens go there. Therefore, we remain opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Mr. Doni as the member of opposition. Mr. Doni spent 7 minutes and 26 seconds. 7 minutes and 26 seconds. Now to close the case of the government, Mr. Landry as the government whip, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's enough to sacrifice your people in vain for direct combat, ladies and gentlemen. You see 1,000 people in Syria die. They also admit it. The civilians are irrationally choosing from other countries, for instance, to go there because that's the only way to go to do jihad, right? We think that we negate that premise because in doing jihad, you can do it in many ways, right? Not only in direct combat, but also in indirect combat, right? For instance, like through ideology and strengthening your religions and iman, for instance. We think that the stance is so clear in closing government because we would like to diversify the role of citizens. For instance, we still combating to do direct combat, for instance, in military. That's why like, we're going to empower through military. We mentioned in my POI, for instance, that we still UN, for instance, to help them, or even like Syria that has already helped by Russia. We think that that's also a form of military forces that still happens, right? We think that why terrorists keep increasing, that's the questions. Because they keep recruiting through ideology. Even though you are trying to kill 1,000 terrorists, but this kind of ideology is still spread overseas. We think that that's also dangerous, right? That's why like those kind of terrorists also try to send their troops, for instance, from their spreading of ideology from other countries to go and to combat on their side. We don't want that to happen. The reasons why people join fighting groups is because they are unaware, ladies and gentlemen, of the meaning of jihad. No, thank you. Because they have less information given. Finally, the reason why they go to the direct combat is because of their emotional bias. Because they think that's the only way to go to do jihad. That's why like they need to go there and sacrifice their life. That's what we call as incorrect calculations, right? So in my discussions, I'm going to talk about two things. Number one, in terms of principle. But before that, I'm going to deliver my rebuttal. First rebuttal, if they say that individual decision is a form of right, we think that here is the figure, right? Huriyatul mar'i mahdudatun bi huriyati ghairi. Your right or freedom is limited by others. Why is that so? Because your decision harms others. For instance, like the government, because you are as citizens as their asset. That's why you are given educations in order for you to calculate the harms, right? Sir, even like you're going to harm your family and relatives because you are as a leader of family. For instance, you go to combat and probably you die, for instance, and probably you're going to harm them even everlasting, and that is actually harmful, right? But in principle, why then? This is going to be important for you to diversify. No, the role of military and citizens. Al-jihadu madin ila yaumil qiyamah. Jihad is a duty, but best jihad only on us. Why? Because banning doesn't mean you limit the effort of individual to combat against terrorism, right? Because what terrorism do is two ways: to direct through the war or direct combat, killing people, for instance, and doing bombing and create fear. And number two, they are going to do propaganda through their ideology and spreading to internet, for instance, private sphere, like go to the unofficial organizations. It has been handled by government if it goes to the military forces, right? Because government sends military troops. You have UN, like what I said before, you have, Arab League, for instance, in the Middle East that also helps this kind of military. We think that military troops are well trained. They can use weapons. They know the strategy of war. Because somehow the strategy of war is very complicated because terrorists can blend with society and it cannot be easily addressed by normal people. We don't want that to happen, right? But here is the thing. Ad-dararu yudfa'u biqadri. We are going to prevent any harms. what does it tell you? Citizen is unable to combat. They are vulnerable, they are unskilled, they are good target to kill, ladies and gentlemen. Even in real war, they are actually protected, like what my member says. Civilians and public places like hospital cannot be attacked because it contains vulnerable person in the end of the day, right? That's why you are, as a person who don't have any skill, or you are not aware with information, with the knowledge of terrorism or even like the ideology, then you don't go there.
Sir.
Kulukum ra'in wa kulukum mas'ula ar-ra'iyatihi fal amirulazi a'la nisa'i ra'in. Every each of us is a leader, like their interpretations. But what does it tell you? Government invests a lot to society in order to make rational decisions. You are as citizens, you are going to go, you go to primary and secondary school, for instance, in order to generate good information, for instance, while you are receiving, for instance, propaganda in the internet or any other organizations. Victim on them, because they eventually irrationally choose to go to war, and they try to sacrifice themselves, right? So what is actually the indirect ways that we are going to promote? Not yet. They spread their ideology through private sphere, go to unofficial groups and organizations in university. So what they use religious approach to sway, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the easiest way to spread such propaganda. What they offer, because they offer jannah if they want to follow them, for instance. That's actually a promising thing that we need to counter, right? That's why we would like to strengthen our ideology. Yes.
Well, if you are to admit that basically all people do jihad in different ways, why don't you basically recognize people who want to do jihad by going to Syria? Because there will be still people who can do jihad on the way of education.
The question will be, how do government protect you in the end of the day while you are doing jihad on that times? Because jihad should be based on the rational calculations in the end of the day, right? If you want to do jihad in education, for instance, you have to be a teacher. It means that you have to be educated first in order to deliver your knowledge to your students, right? It also goes the same to this case, right? If you want to combat against terrorism through war, means that you have to obtain the ability of combating terrorism by using weapons, for instance, through the strategy of war and anything. But in the end, why then strengthening ideology and religion is good? Because we are going to install the ideology through educations like civic educations or whatever it is, right? Even like in religions, we are going to have good interpretations of religions. That's why like there is no extreme interpretations that may lead to controversy. The result will be this way, the last one. We think that we are going to oppress numbers of radical movement that happen even in Indonesia, right? Everyone starts to be aware in the end of the day. For instance, like they're aware that HTI, for instance, try to challenge the ideology of Pancasila. That's why there is a further policy to abolish them in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we expect, right? When every individual is aware upon what is actually terrorist and what they should combat, then that's going to be the best way to combat terrorism, and they cannot even recruit any random people, right? So if you want to save the people, go to the closing statement. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Mr. Landry. As the government whip, Mr. Landry spent 7 minutes 26 seconds. 7 minutes and 26 seconds. Now to close the case of the opposition as well as to end the debate, Ms. Fajrin, as the opposition whip, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hamdan wa syukran lah, salatan wa salaman ala rasulillah la nabiyya ba'dah. Thanks for the audience, honorable the judges, all the judges, ladies and gentlemen. Before I going to deliver my point, let me rebut from the closing, for opening and closing government statement, ladies and gentlemen. First thing is opening government, talking about Al-Ma'idah, the first two, ladies and gentlemen. We know that Al-Ma'idah, if your position talking about this Surah Al-Ma'idah is not applicable, ladies and gentlemen. Because why? Because Asbabun Nuzul of this is what kind of jihad, is what kind of jihad, ladies and gentlemen. So if you say that talking about Al-Ma'idah is support your point, it is very wrong, totally wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Let me read this verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تحلوا شعائر الله ولا الشهر الحرام ولا الهدي ولا القلائد ولا آمن البيت الحرام يبتغون فضلا من ربهم ورضوانا وإذا حللتم فاصطادوا ولا يجرمنكم شنآن قوم أن صدوكم عن المسجد الحرام أن تعتدوا. This is, and you have to underline this kind of surah, ladies and gentlemen, this kind of sentences. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. It means that, ladies and gentlemen, so you support my position that وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى تعاونوا على البر والتقوى. I'm sorry, I mean تعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان. It means that you support my point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes to who help others, ladies and gentlemen. And the second speaker also, and the second statement also stated that kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. Al-imamu ra'in mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi war-rajulu ra'in ahluhu wa huwa mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. It means that, ladies and gentlemen, everyone or every human is a leader, that you have responsibility to lead the self, ladies and gentlemen. So it clearly stated that if you say that kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi, it means that you support my point twice, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second. And thirdly, Allah asks us, and from the next speaker, Allah asks us for sacrifice. So my question is, what kind of sacrifice do you mean, ladies and gentlemen? You stated that clearly that what kind of sacrifice. If you talk about sacrifice, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated that we have to sacrifice to what? To stop this kind of cases, ladies and gentlemen. Terrorism is formed because the terrorism would like to jihad, but they have their own and different perspective to implement the best jihad, ladies and gentlemen. This is the wrong way to let them to do what kind of jihad, ladies and gentlemen. And next statement, that the harm thing, ladies and gentlemen, if they say that dar'ul mafasid muqaddamun ala jalbil masalih, it means that you know that if you talk about this kind of hadith, if the official military like this kind of motion, ladies and gentlemen, cannot solve or cannot handle this kind of cases, will we wait for the destroy of this country, ladies and gentlemen? So if you're talking about dar'ul mafasid muqaddimun ala jalbil masalih, it's not applicable hadith to support your point. And the next, ladies and gentlemen, you talk about obey the government. Will we join with the government who can give the solution, ladies and gentlemen? And you're talking about also wa'ulil amri minkum. If the amri of the government don't do any action and let them destroy, ladies and gentlemen, will we wait the day of destroy, ladies and gentlemen? So you say that wa'ulil amri minkum. So you have to underline, and the honorable judges, you have to underline wa'ulil amri minkum. What kind of cases that we have to ulil amri, that we have to obey the government, ladies and gentlemen. If the government should ban the citizen, that depends on the action from the military, ladies and gentlemen. If the government do not any action, will we wait for the destroy, ladies and gentlemen? Let me talk about my point and strengthen with my first speaker, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that government should not ban the citizen for joining overseas groups fighting against terrorism, which are not official military, ladies and gentlemen. I strengthen with my first speaker statement, ladies and gentlemen. First, our statement first, because we believe that amar ma'ruf nahi munkar, do good deeds and prevent from bad deeds, ladies and gentlemen. And this kind of munkar, like terrorism, etc. And the second is, ladies and gentlemen.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
When terrorists blend with the local society and they can use the local language, you are as Indonesian, if you go there, how could you address their position and kill them?
Okay, continue to my statement, ladies and gentlemen. I strengthen with my position that amar ma'ruf nahi munkar, it means that do good thing in every kind of action, ladies and gentlemen. Remember and believe, headline this kind of Amar Ma'ruf Nahi Munkar. And the second is we have Al-A'raf 199. Ladies and gentlemen, khudil afwa wa'mur bil urufi wa'arid anil jahilin. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy what is good and turn away from foolish. Don't punish each other, ladies and gentlemen. And also my third statement that kul kullu ya'mal ala shakilatihi fawabbukum a'lamu biman huwa ahda sabila. It means that each people do anything according to the condition and situation, but your Lord is the most knowing who is best guided away, ladies and gentlemen. It means that this kind of verse, this kind of ayah told us that we will not wait if our government don't or are not able to solve this kind of cases, are not able to solve this kind of a problem, ladies and gentlemen. And the second is, in the next hadith, we have al-aslu fil ashya'i al-ibaha, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is available up to the warming of prevention in the intention of let the others be good, ladies and gentlemen. And also I strengthen with my position with my first speaker statement that in At-Tawbah 24 about asbabun nuzul of this surah is available with my position, ladies and gentlemen. We see that the status quo in this condition of terrorism is saying just because of they not understand and the main concept of jihad fi sabilillah actually, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, have solution of this kind of cases. All the judges, honorable judges, we have the solution of this kind of statement, ladies and gentlemen. Rather than banning citizens, it's better to government to empower and enable military forces to fight against terrorists, ladies and gentlemen. And the next is for the best kind of this verse. For this motion is the final and the same purpose is baldatun tayyibatun wa rabbun ghafur. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Check. Thank you very much for Ms. Fajrin as the opposition whip. Ms. Fajrin spent 8 minutes and 4 seconds. 8 minutes and 4 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the debate. Thank you very much for all the debaters and the honorable adjudicators. By this, I hereby close this round. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Further participant, please do not get back to the seat first because the adjudicator wants to have picture with you. Tolong jangan turun dulu. Terima kasih. Cek, buat panitia yang PDDM ada di sini kah? Dokumentasi? Si dokumentasi ada di sini? Cek, halo? Buat Ladies and gentlemen, may we have big applause for our semi-finalists, the first shift. Thank you very much. For the semi-finalists, you may return to your seat. Untuk peserta kita nunggu setelah azan dulu ya. Terima kasih. Cek. Check. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start the debate directly. For all the audience, please remain silent throughout the debate. Tolong jangan berisik selama debat agar tidak mengganggu jalannya proses debat dan tidak mengganggu konsentrasi dari Bapak Ibu Dewan Hakim dan juga para peserta. Untuk peserta yang ada di sebelah belakang, mohon yang masih berdiri silakan menempati tempat duduk yang tersedia agar tidak terlalu mengganggu untuk jalannya semifinal shift kedua. For the committee, you may help the guests and the audiences to get their seat. Thank you. Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the semi-final round, Shift 2 of MTKMN English Debate Competitions 2017. The motion for this debate is this House would prefer the political economic assistance of China over USA. With the opening government is from Universitas Indonesia, with Mr. Alif as Prime Minister, and Ms. Risti as Deputy Prime Minister. For the opening opposition, we have Unan with Ms. Rifka as the Leader of Opposition and Mr. Alif as the Deputy Leader of Opposition. In closing debate, we have UII as the closing government with Mr. Abdul as the government member and Mr. Galang as the government whip. The closing opposition is Universitas Syahkuala with Mr. Afi as the opposition member and Mr. Syam as the opposition whip. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the debate, I would like to add a little bit of the rule. For all the audiences, tolong untuk cheering atau tepuk tangan selama debat, tolong untuk tidak terlalu mengganggu peserta karena itu akan bisa mengganggu konsentrasi dari peserta dan juga Dewan Hakim. Bisa dimengerti ya? Terima kasih. Now we shall proceed to the debate. I would like to call the Prime Minister, Mr. Alif, time is yours.
Test. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. and Madam Speaker, Honorable Chair, ladies and gentlemen. Yasiru wala tu'asiru. Make easy, not hard. And in trying to find the political and economic assistance of the world, we need to find the one that makes it most easy for us to develop and a reliable partner, not a hard one. What is this debate about? This debate is about developing countries everywhere, like Southeast Asian countries, like African countries, like South American countries, that still rely on the help and assistance of more powerful countries because they are unable to develop by themselves without aid, without assistance from other countries. There is right now a shifting change in the international stage. China is now a growing economic powerhouse. It is the second largest economy, becoming more active in helping developing countries. Recently, it created the IIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which gives aid and development assistance to Asian countries everywhere. It's projected to make the new Silk Road, a project that wants to connect Central Asian countries and Southeast Asian countries in order to intensify trade, and it's funding projects like railroads in Indonesia from Jakarta to Bandung and building companies in Africa to provide employment and income. What is economic and political assistance? First, it's aid, trade, and any type of economic agreements. It's also investment and building the economy and sending foreign direct investment, and it's also becoming an ally, a military ally, a diplomatic ally, and helping each other in the global stage. What is the question of the debate? For developing country, which global superpower is the best partner? China or America? And according to the Quran, there are 3 parameters. First, we need a partner that is a genuine friend and wants to genuinely help us. Second, we need a friend that wants to best develop us. And we need a friend that lastly is a reliable partner. And this is the parameter that all the debate should fall on, because these are the 3 parameters of a good economic and political assistance. First argument, we believe that China is a genuine friend and does not have a hidden political interest like America, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first read to you Al-Araf, verse 85. A'udhu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Fa'awful kaila wal mizana wa la tabakhusun nasa asyahum wa la tafsidu fil ardi ba'da islahiha. What does this mean? Give full measure and weight, and do not undervalue people's goods, and do not cause corruption in the land after it is set in order. Partners need to be fair. They have to treat their partners in a way that is balanced and somewhere that is good. What is China's nature? Unlike the United States, China is a pragmatic actor. It will help you if it's economically beneficial for both countries. It wants to help, for example, African countries build their economy and give them companies, because that gives African citizens income, but it also gives China an ability to import more goods. US is not a fair or balanced partner. The US has political interests. Before it gives aid, it expects you to become more liberalist. It expects you to open up your market and adopt free market policies, for example. That's why American Freeport has been hurting Papuan citizens in Indonesia, because they prioritize their own Freeport interests instead of helping Indonesia, because they have those political interests in the back. What is the Aqidah Fiqh? Innama al-malu bin niyah. Actions depend on their intentions. And America has no intention to help both parties. They only want to help themselves. China is a better economic and political partner because they want to help both the parties, African and the developing countries. Second argument, best development. Before I continue, yes.
How could you know the content of the inside of someone? Thank you.
The second argument is about best development. Let's look at Az-Zumar 39. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kul ya qaumi malu ala makanatikum inni amilu. Say, O people, work according to your position. What is the best development for developing countries? It is gradual development. It is a development that slowly increases over time and does not give you a shocking distance. So you have to work within your position and slowly become better. The United States is not like that. The United States imposes large standards. Before it wants to trade with you, before it wants to give you aid, they give you high environmental standards. They give you high labor standards. They give you sophisticated and advanced standards that only developed countries in Europe or America can follow. But Asian countries and African countries have a very hard time trying to follow these standards, and it's very difficult for them to develop. This is bad because at the end of the day, they are unable to get the best development because they're shocked. All of a sudden, they have to follow this big standard that they're unable to. China is different. They're slow. They're okay with low label standard or environment standard first, but after there's economic growth and economic progress, we will increase the standard little by little to ensure that all the developing countries have the best development that they want. Last argument about reliable partner. Let's talk about Al-Anfa verse 59. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa imma takhafanna min qaumin khiyanatan fambidh ilaihim ala sawa'in. What is it talking about? If you learn of treachery on part of any people, throw away their treaty back at them. The United States is not a reliable partner. It has violated the Paris Agreement. It has violated the Trans-Pacific Partnership. America says that they want to make friends with Muslims, but they're implementing a Muslim ban in America, for example. What does this show? The political situation of Donald Trump or Republican parties showed to you that America is not a reliable partner. When it's no longer beneficial, they'll throw you away. They won't work with you anymore. Your past agreements, they will violate. They will not follow based on the partnerships and all the agreements that we have implemented. China, on the other hand, has kept to the Paris Agreement, has kept to AFTA, an Asian Free Trade Agreement, and they're more reliable. You can trust them and to ensure that they will always be there in the future. Because China is a more genuine friend, because China has gradual development, and because China is a reliable partner, we need economic and political assistance with China, not the United States. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Mr. Alif as the Prime Minister. Mr. Alif spent 7 minutes and 28 seconds. 7 minutes and 28 seconds. Now to open the case of opposition, Ms. Rifka as the Leader of Opposition, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, here we will discuss about the motion today, which is titled about this House belief. This House will prefer the political economic assistance of China over USA. Before I tell more about these motions, first, the honorable, the adjudicators for these competitions, and then my proponent and opponent teams, and then all of the audiences who have attended here to adjudicate competitions. Ladies and gentlemen, before I tell more my arguments about these motions, this House believes that China is braver than the USA. Ladies and gentlemen, come to my arguments and come to my descriptions about why I oppose this motion, ladies and gentlemen. And the definition has been explained by the government teams. Now I will tell you about what the urgency of we discuss political assistance and economic assistance, ladies and gentlemen. First, political assistance and economic assistance, both of things are contribute to the prosperity of our country, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we have to give attention and we have to pay attention to these conditions about the political and economic, ladies and gentlemen. And according to our religions, as Islamic religions, we have known that about security and prosperity has been related according to the Quran and Hadith, ladies and gentlemen. I cite the reference Quran chapter number 2, Quran Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 126. It is said that Al mentions when Abraham said, "My Lord, make this a secure city and provide its people with first whoever of them believes in Allah and last day." Allah said, "And whoever of these believes, I will grant him enjoyment for a little, then I will force him to the punishment of the fire and grudge this nation," ladies and gentlemen. And other verses also about security and stability is verses number Al-An'am, verse number 82. It states that they who believe and do not mix their belief with justice, those will have a security and they are rightly guided, ladies and gentlemen. This is verses about why we have to pay attention to political assistance, which is contributing to the prosperity of the country, ladies and gentlemen. And the second is, we talk about the economic assistance, ladies and gentlemen. And economic assistance for parts of economic, as we know that one of the factors contribute or determine the Human Development Index. As a Human Development Index, we know that there are three parts. First, the economic, education, and the health, ladies and gentlemen. So, if we give the help for the economic factors of economic assistance, so we have give help in good aim, ladies and gentlemen. And I will open this case with descriptions that we can have assistance with the non-Muslim people, ladies and gentlemen. Although there are non-Muslim or whatever their race, whatever their religion, we can take the assistance with the other religions, ladies and gentlemen. And I come to my arguments why that this House prefer the political economic assistance of USA over China, ladies and gentlemen. The first is, as we know that America or the United States is the stronger country since ancient times, ladies and gentlemen, and according to the technology and developments of the technology and so on, it's stronger and better than China, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we have known the prosperity of America is better than China, and then, for example, like the salary, just the salary of the servant in America is higher than the other countries, gentlemen. So if
Madam.
we want, no, sorry. So if you want to ask for assistance, ladies and gentlemen, and then, for example, like if the others give our assistance to us, so we have to determine it's better or not, ladies and gentlemen. And according to the situation and conditions, I strongly say that USA is better than China. As we all know about the developments and about the advances, America is stronger and advanced than China, ladies and gentlemen. And my second argument, ladies and gentlemen, is, as we know that America has a principle, and they has a principle as free, and then they do not pay attention to the race and to the religion that they want to give the assistance, ladies and gentlemen. And it's very different with China, as we know that China has a communism ideology, ladies and gentlemen. And no
Madam.
thanks. And if come back to my arguments before that the China has a communism ideology, ladies and gentlemen. Can we imagine that if the China have to give us the assistance, for example, like in the political and economy, and then give their ideology to our country, it will destroy our country, ladies and gentlemen. As we know that the communism is very harm, is a very threat on our countries, and so that's why it's better if we accept the assistance from the United States rather than in China, ladies and gentlemen. And then, for example, like if we talk about the communisms, and then communism have ever talked in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen, and there are many negative sides of the communisms, and it can threaten the human right to have a religion or to have the freedom of to take a religion, ladies and gentlemen. So we have to pay attention to this case. We cannot deny that there are many people take the ideology. No thanks. Take the ideology from the communism, ladies and gentlemen. So we have to pay attention that we have to keep strong our religions, and still keep our case in the communism, ladies and gentlemen, because in China there are many communism people, ladies and gentlemen. So if we can imagine that if there are many people who do not have a good understanding about their Islamic principle, and it will kind of affect easily to them which don't have a strong principle if communism comes to Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why I strongly disagree. No thanks. I strongly disagree that the assistance based on the political assistance and economic assistance is better if we accept from the United States than the China, ladies and gentlemen. And the other argument, ladies and gentlemen, as we know before, that regarding to the technology and the advance of the knowledge, is America is stronger than the others. It's more advanced than the others, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we must accept the assistance from the United States, because the easily and the facilitating of the high technology can give the assistance as easy as possible, ladies and gentlemen. So because we can get benefit from the advanced technology, so that's why it's better for us to take the good in assistance from United States rather than in China, ladies and gentlemen. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I come to the point of the most important argument that I have to say to you all, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, that China is one of the crowded population, ladies and gentlemen. And because of the crowded population, ladies and gentlemen, even China have to move to the other countries because of the crowded population, or the number of population is very high, ladies and gentlemen. And how China can give the assistance? How China can give the assistance? Rather, their country is very crowded. A crowded country sign that the sign that unprosperous inhabitant, ladies and gentlemen. How can they give the assistance even that the country is not safe, or is not safe, ladies and gentlemen, for example, like that. So here I strongly disagree with these motions that this has to favor the political economic assistance of China over to USA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for Ms. Rifka as the leader of opposition. Ms. Rifka spent 7 minutes 36 seconds. 7 minutes and 36 seconds. Now to extend the case of government, we have Ms. Risti as Deputy Prime Minister. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Adjudicator, Mr. and Madam Speaker. In here, we want to remind you that actually the case that brought by the opposition side of the House is actually not necessary to be used as our parameter to choose a good partners, especially to assist us in political and economical of our countries, of another developing countries that actually they need help. They need partners, they need friends who can make them a developed countries instead of stuck as a developing country as what right now, as what happening in the world right now. We also want to remind you that actually we brought the 3 parameters that actually more reliable to be used as a parameter to choose a good partners to you, especially in political and economical assistance. The first is upon the genuine help or friends, genuine friends, on how we believe that in here USA is backed by the political interest behind them, on how they are commonly asked for return of investment that they have that they put in the developing countries. The second parameter is upon what is the best development pattern that a developing countries has to do to make their countries developed. In here, we believe that China assists you to make or to have a gradual development instead of USA, which provides you with an instant development, in which we believe in this case is not good for the development of the third world countries or the developing countries. The third parameter is upon the reliable partners, on how here we believe that actually China is more reliable partners and USA is since they withdraw a lot of agreement at the very first place right now, for instance the Trans-Pacific Partnership and etc. We believe that the USA is not the best partner, is not the best country to assist us in political and economical sector. 2 points of rebuttals toward the government, toward the opposition side of this House. The first is upon the argument of technology development that are advanced in USA, and the second is upon the communism ideology that China adopted. The first rebuttal upon the technology development, we believe that actually those power of technology development that have by America doesn't necessary to be used as the parameter of a good partner or a good assistance. Why? Because what is the use of good technological power if in the end of the day it will benefit USA themselves instead of using it to helping the developing country to develop their countries, ladies and gentlemen. Here we also brought the story upon the era of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when Quraysh also have a more developed civilization compared to Medina. But what Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam do? We still move to Medina because they are a reliable partner. They want to help us to build the civilization and to develop our society more, rather than choosing the one who have a developed technology or who have the developed ideology one. Second point is upon the communism ideology that adopted by China. In here, actually, when China assisting a political or economical in the developing country, they didn't spread this ideology, ladies and gentlemen, on how that actually this kind of argument is actually hamper the USA, because while in here, China doesn't spread their ideology. USA, on the other side, they are, by assisting political and economical, they are spreading their liberal view. They are spreading the secular view of United States here, which may, which may in turn hamper the market which have no power. For instance, they are spreading the view of free market, ladies and gentlemen, on how here actually in the theory of free market, those who have the big capital is those who will win. This kind of ideology is not good for the developing country, as they do not have enough capital, as they do not have enough capability to compete with the United States, and how in this kind of ideology in the end will benefit United States instead of the developing country that they are trying to help at the very first place. That is why here we believe that the case of opposition has been tackled down. one point of substantive arguments to enhance, to underline more upon the political siding of United States and how it may hamper and it may affect economic imbalances. The first, we see upon the political condition of USA in status quo right now, on how they have the president of Donald Trump. We know that this Donald Trump is actually having having a leader who have negative threats or negative characteristics that may hamper another country. For instance, they are not a reliable partner when they withdraw this Trans-Pacific Partnership and etc. And he also been known as some racist in some ways. That is why here we believe actually the leader inside United States is not accountable and is not capable to be used as our leader, to be used as our ulil amri in this case, because they are assisting. It means that we are also having kiblat to them, ladies and gentlemen. Why this worldview of Donald Trump is bad? Because it may affect their decision-making policy, because it may create a bias toward the third world country, toward his personal interest compared to compared to the needs of the country who needs aids and etc. Ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile here in Al-Baqarah verse 185, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yuridullahu bikumul yusra wala yuridu bikumul usra, in which Allah stated that Allah intends for you ease and He does not intend to put you in hardship. This bias from the current leader of United States, we believe, will create hardships toward some of the developing country which are not in favor of his own worldview, ladies and gentlemen. And how here we believe that actually China have a neutral political interest. They aid developing countries based on reliable economic calculation in which the use of proper theory of economics is more fair. And here Islam also encouraged an adil behavior. On how those who behave fairly is closer to taqwa. So here we close the case of the opening government and we beg you to propose. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Check. Thank you very much for Ms. Risti as the Deputy Prime Minister. Ms. Risti spent 7 minutes and 38 seconds. 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wait for a while because one of the adjudicators are still away. Is it? Oh, okay. Oh, it turns out it is okay. Then we are going to continue to the opening opposition. We have Mr. Alif. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, the honorable educators, my proponent and opponent teams. Well, we are discussing about two superpower countries. There are America, United States, and China. But here, before I'm going to deliver my argument, I would like to give rebuttal to the government team. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems like the government team too suuzon to justify about American intention and Donald Trump characters. Why I say like that? Because the government said that Donald Trump has bad character. He is not, certainly want to help other countries. And he says about American intention is not, they don't want to help other countries because there is interest. But my question is, can you make sure that China also have good intention to help other countries? So this is the point that I want to say. And in response to the statement of the government team say that China, the United States have a high standard before helping other countries. But my question is, can you make sure that China also doesn't have high standard? Because, when King Salman came to Indonesia the past a month ago, King Salman would like to give investation to our countries. But on the other side, China also would like to invest in Indonesia. But the difference is, the amount of investment of China in Indonesia just 20% of the total amount of Saudi Arabia. But the difference The difference is Saudi Arabia give full free control to the infestations, but China says that they have to, come the workers from China also. They have to, take workers from China, and the benefits must come in close times and other requirements. So here it is proof that China actually do not give help sincerely to other countries. It breaks the argument of the government teams. And ladies and gentlemen, it is proof that a government of United States have stability. The political condition in the United States is more stable and conducive compared to China. And the government cannot give us certain proof that the condition of politics in United States is bad compared to China. So we disagree with this statement. And the government also says about military and technology development in China and in the United States. They says that in case of political and economic assistance, it is not important, it is not necessary, the military and technology. This is totally wrong. Because ladies and gentlemen, no thanks, because ladies and gentlemen, military and technology is very necessary in case of political assistance. Because why? If we want to get help from other countries, it is important to get also protection. So military and the technology development, it is one of the most important points that we have to take care, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I'm coming to my argument. So all these rebuttals have break down the argument of the government team. And come to my argument, ladies and gentlemen, in Qaidah Fiqh, in Kitab Majalah Al-Ahkam Al-Adiyah, chapter number 26, it is mentioned that تصرف الإمام على الرعية مربوط بالمصلحة. It is mentioned that the action of the government or the leader to its people, to their people, must be based on the advantages or benefits. It means that the consideration factor is the benefits. Which one is bigger and which one is lesser. So the government have to, make a consideration about this. And the other Qaidah in fiqh also says that al-aslu fil muamalatil ibahati illa yadru ala tahrimuha. It means that actually the concept of muamala, we talk about muamala because we talk about two big countries, which we know that both of these countries are non-Muslim countries. But here we talk that muamala is actually allowed in our religion as long as it is not contradictory with the law of Sharia and Sunnah in Islam. This is our background, that the responsibility to make sure the stability and political assistance and also economic assistance is the responsibility of the government, ladies and gentlemen. No thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, before I'm coming to next argument, we talk about communism and what happened in China. The government say that it's no matter whether China also adopt communism to their countries, and they will not spread it to the countries that they help. But in fact, we see right now, when China's come to Indonesia, they still have this ideology in their mind. It is potentially, they can spread it to people. And no thanks. And before I'm going to further explanation, come to economic background. Because we know that actually in economic, USA is still higher than China. That's why we prefer to choose United States, ladies and gentlemen. And we also believe that United States have bigger influence to other countries compared to China. Because almost all political affairs that happen in several countries in the world, it is controlled by United States. And also in Muslim countries, ladies and gentlemen. If we see in the Middle East, we cannot deny that in some other case, United States can control the countries. But the things that we have to consider here, the United States have power to control and to help to get assistance. And what happened in Saudi Arabia, when Saudi Arabia have a war with Yemen, with Shia Houthi in Yemen, they get help, assistance in military and power from United States. They can protect the two holy cities in Islam, Makkah and Medina. This is the point I would like to say here about political assistance. And ladies and gentlemen, if we see what happened in China, and China's population are now so crowded, there are so many people in China, and their government try to take people from their other countries to live in to find another countries. So when they try to, as I'll give you an example, when they try to make infestation in Indonesia, they ask that the workers must come from their countries. And if they do like this, it means that they try to move their people to the country that they help. So this is actually the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Because if there are so many Chinese people that come to Indonesia, so it has become the new problem to the countries itself. So we cannot stay with this argument that China is actually help other countries insincerely. And ladies and gentlemen, it also mentioned in Quran that we have to ta'awun, help one another. And to help one another, Allah says that وَتَعَوَلُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ, we have to help another in good thing. But if we see that there is a mafsadah or mudarat behind that, so we have to avoid that. Because it is appropriate with kaidah fiqh, dar'ul mafasada muqaddamun ala jalbil masalih, avoiding or preventing the disadvantages, it is better than take small advantages. So this is our concept, ladies and gentlemen, our mind that we disapprove this motion. And ladies and gentlemen, if the government says that the United States try to ban Muslims, but in fact, United States give freedom to Muslim to develop. There are so many Muslims in Indonesia, in the United States, but in Uyghur, China's government try to attack Uyghur Muslims. We disagree with this because they try to attack. That's all our argument. We disapprove the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Mr. Alif as the deputy leader of opposition. Mr. Alif spent 7 minutes and 35 seconds. 7 minutes and 35 seconds. Now moving on to the closing debate, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Abdul as the government member. Time is yours.
We can see the famous sentence in Islam that we know all of the time, ladies and gentlemen, is that pursuing your knowledge to the China. That is an Islamic famous word. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And the honorable judges and then all of the audiences here, the actually political and the economic assistance that we are going to take here is about the banding money, and second is a regional and the bilateral cooperations between Islam and Chinese itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then since the US becoming the world economic, America has created the economic system established. The first is IMF and the World Capitalism Bank. And then with this the world economic in America, they can do whatever they want, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why here I'm going to 2 layers of debate. The first is about the perspective of political that I will bring, and the second is the economic perspective they will bring by my friends. And then we can classify actually what the opposition side of the house said. Here, the first I'm going to sum the argument. The second is I'm going to give some the rebuttals first. They actually in opposition side of the house is don't really understand about the system of Chinese and America itself, ladies and gentlemen. Here the thing that I'm going with my speech. The first, the system in China is actually using about the colonialism and socialism. Even in America is using about liberalism and capitalism, ladies and gentlemen. But opposite side of the house is generally see that Chinese is only in colonialism and always impact to another people. We can see literally that China has the socialism itself, ladies and gentlemen. Why we choose China itself? Because socialism that China has here is similar with economic in Islam itself, ladies and gentlemen, where we can see in zakat. Zakat, actually the purpose of socialism itself is to purpose the equity in society itself. We can see in zakat in Islam, we always try to help the people that poor or don't understand, don't have something that they have. So that's why we utilize the socialism by using zakat to help another people, ladies and gentlemen. The second of all, why we didn't choose about the America? Because the America is using that liberalism and capitalism, which is the capitalism itself is different, so far different with the socialism, where if there is society, he is the rich, it will be the richer, and the poor, it will be the poor. There is no help, for the example, the zakat or equity in the society itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we support the China in the relationship in Islam itself. No, that actually we can see in the Islamic historical golden age in the past, we can see in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen, in the generally people in Indonesia has good relationship with Islam. We can see one of the Sunan in Javanese island, we can see Sunan Bonang. If you are, if you all of you see and read the history of Sunan itself, the first name is Bonang because the Javanese people don't understand, hard to say Bonang, so that's why easily see Bonang. That is the Chinese relation, gentlemen. That's one proof the Chinese has good relationship with Islam itself. The second of all, we know that Laksamana Cheng Ho that sail all over the world, that is can spread the economical system to another people, especially for Islam. That is one of proof that Chinese and Islam has good relationship. And the third of all here is, so that's why with these cooperations that we can see in the golden age era in Islam, we could use and we can establish the political corporations by using the Allah itself, ladies and gentlemen. And then in usul fiqh itself is it said that facing private harm is tolerated than facing the public harm. What it means, we have to give the big underline in the private harm, ladies and gentlemen. The private harm itself is socialism itself, where if there is the people is rich, of course, we can share all of the people that don't have anything. For example, we can use zakat in Islam, but in the Chinese, we can use socialism itself. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we can use the comparative with what is containing big mudorot itself. Why? The first, because of the America is using system of capitalism as liberalism. This is the big harm than good. So that's why we take the socialism itself in the China, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why in these conditions and by combining China and Islam, it will be reached. The Islamic golden age is like last time, ladies and gentlemen. And then the next, ladies and gentlemen, and then in the Quran said, actually in Al-Hujarat in chapter 13 is Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dzakari wa untha wa ja'alnakum syu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum innallaha alimun khabir. It means that in this ayah is containing Allah created you in a nationality, ethnic, in order to you could recognize each other. But we have to underline how to recognize each other, ladies and gentlemen, how to recognize the people that will give benefit to us, and then for maslahah in the umat, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we choose the China as the socialism that will bring good, big good, then big harm, ladies and gentlemen, that will bring the system of capitalism and socialism, it will bring with America itself, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing that I'm going to begin with my rebuttals. The first, actually the opposite side of the house always talking about the technology is better than China, America. That is totally wrong. We can see now the manufacturing system in China is totally almost same with America itself, because we can see the product of the China itself is comparing with the Apple in America, ladies and gentlemen. We can see that is proof. And the second of all, the opposite house of the host said about the ideology will ours is for the example